We've all had friendly talks that unexpectedly developed into heated arguments that made us feel under assault. The other person twisted your statements and employed petty malfeasance in an effort to make you seem worthless. Therefore, today in this video, we'll show you how to defend yourself in any debate, even if the opposing party is out to ruin your reputation. If you're attempting to disprove a specific myth, such as a conspiracy theory or a piece of fake news, you should make sure your justification provides a compelling, cogent narrative that fills in all holes in the other person's understanding. Consider the experiment conducted by Professors Jason Raeffler of the University of Exeter and Brendan Nihan of the University of Michigan. Readers were given stories about a fictitious senator who had resigned after being the subject of an inquiry for bribery. Written confirmation of his innocence in the form of a letter from the prosecution did little to allay the participants' concerns of his guilt. However, when given a different justification for his resignation to assume a new position, participants altered their thoughts. Due to the persuasive power of well-crafted narratives, it is frequently beneficial to discuss the sources of false information in order to help the individual comprehend why they were first misled. Anti-vaxxers, for example, might think that there is a medical plot to downplay the risks associated with vaccinations. If you replace that narrative with one that is equally coherent and compelling, such as Andrew Wakefield's scientific dishonesty and the fact that he stood to benefit from his paper tying autism to MMR vaccines, you have a better chance of influencing people's opinions. The scientific evidence won't be as persuasive if it's just stated. Now, another thing you can do it to rephrase the problem. Each of our ideologies has a solid foundation in a larger, more nuanced political ideology. Denial of the climate catastrophe, for instance, is now closely related to opinions supporting capitalism, free trade, and the perils of environmental control. Because of this, tackling one issue could endanger someone's entire worldview, which could lead to emotionally motivated reasoning. Because of this, highly educated Republicans in the U.S. contest the weight of the evidence. It is best to explain how the facts can still fit into someone's worldview or to detach the topic at hand from their larger ideas, because you cannot change someone's entire political philosophy in a single conversation. If you explain that the development of renewable energies could result in technological advancements and spur economic growth, a free market capitalist who doubts global warming might be far more receptive to the data. Moreover, you can try to use of a different identity. If your attempt to reframe the problem is unsuccessful, you can find more success by appealing to a completely other aspect of the person's identity. Political affiliation will never entirely characterize a person. We identify ourselves with other features and ideals, such as our profession or our role as a parent. In addition to being a conservative or a socialist, a Brexit supporter or a Remain supporter, we might think of ourselves as unusually sincere or as exceptionally inventive. Professor J. Van Bavel of New York University, who specializes in the neurobiology of the partisan brain, asserts that all people have multiple identities. Depending on the situation, these identities may become active at any time. It makes sense that while discussing politics, our allegiance to a certain party or movement will come up frequently. However, when people are first encouraged to consider their other non-political beliefs, they often become more unbiased in discussion on extremely politicized matters because they stop perceiving the world through their own ideological prism. If you're in a heated argument, you may try to take advantage of this by making subtle appeals to another identity and its set of values. For example, if you're speaking to a science instructor, you might try to highlight their ability to evaluate the data fairly. The objective is to assist them in realizing that they can alter their opinions on specific topics while still upholding other crucial facets of their identity. You can also try to encourage them to adopt a fresh viewpoint. Asking your conversation partner to consider the issue from the perspective of someone from a different nation is another straightforward technique to promote a more objective and logical mindset. How would people in Australia or Iceland perceive Boris Johnson as our future Prime Minister, for instance? It has been demonstrated by Professors Igor Grossman at the University of Waterloo in Ontario, Canada, and Ethan Cross at the University of Michigan that using this method helps you get more psychological distance from the topic at hand and calms your emotionally charged reasoning so you can view it more objectively. For example, when voting in the U.S. presidential election, participants were encouraged to think about how the candidates might be perceived in Iceland. They were subsequently more willing to accept the limits of their knowledge and to listen to alternative viewpoints. After the experiment, they were even more likely to join a bipartisan discussion group. There are numerous additional ways to raise someone's psychological distance in addition to this one. You may ask them to picture how the situation will appear to someone in the future if you are considering initiatives that could have long-term effects. Regardless of how you go about it, fostering this change in viewpoint should make your friend or relative more receptive to the information you are giving them rather than just dismissing it out of hand. So guys, let's be kind, be humble or sympathetic. One thing that certain media polemicists would do well to keep in mind is that, when handled with respect and compassion, individuals tend to be far more reasonable in their arguments and more open to admit the limits of their knowledge and understanding. At contrast, aggression makes them feel as though their identity is at danger, which can lead to them being narrow-minded. Assuming that your argument's goal is to persuade others to change their minds rather than to demonstrate your own superiority, you are much more likely to succeed in changing their minds if you argue politely and kindly rather than angrily, and you show them that you respect them even when you are telling them the truth. Be mindful of your feelings. Are you relaxed and enjoying yourself? Do you notice a rise in your blood pressure? Are you practically unable to believe what the other person is saying and ready to start a fight? Observe your feelings. Letting your emotions rule your actions is definitely the fastest way to veer off course. Watch the other person's emotions while you're at it. Be mindful of your surroundings. The key environment I want you to focus on in this situation is how other people react, whether they are directly involved in the debate or not at all. Do they appear to be uncomfortable? Are there any other diners who are becoming even more agitated than you? Are you concerned that this Thanksgiving will be the kind that will only be whispered about in the future? Here's a clever move. Mimic the other person's nonverbal cues. Although it won't convince them to agree with you, it might make them feel a little better about you personally at the time, which might help to lessen the tension. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal, University College London's emeritus professor of neuropsychology, Chris Frith, stated that we tend to like people who imitate us, as long as we don't notice that they're doing it. This is the main point to bear in mind at all times. Trying to persuade the opposite side of a debate to agree with you is not the key to winning. How frequently does that occur, anyhow? Instead, success entails getting near to attaining the objectives you set out to accomplish. So guys, what do you think? Hope you enjoyed watching the video. Do let us know about your suggestions in the comments. Do like the video and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe our channel, Thought Torch. Stay tuned for upcoming videos and goodbye for now. See you soon in the next video.